As you know, the topic today is open data, and my name is Zoran Luša, and I'm from the Ministry of Public Administration of the Republic of Croatia. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I'm dealing with the open data and developing the open data portal in Croatia. So everybody's talking about open data as the new oil, and here now you have the opportunity to learn something about it in one simple way. So in the next 20 minutes you will learn what open data actually is, why is it important, and something about maybe the legislations and few advices how to open data in your institution, association, or even a company. So begin with the definition. What is open data? Open data is data that anyone can access, reuse, and redistribute. So how to make that happen? It is crucial that the data must be licensed in an appropriate way, so that there should be no limit for their reuse. The data should be machine readable and available in bulk and provided in open format. And open format is a format which places no restrictions, monetary or otherwise, upon their use. The important thing is that the data must not contain any personal data or any data that is subject to some of the restrictions. So here, in the next slide, we're having an example of a data set that is machine readable. It is actually an XML file containing the information about the number of e-citizens users in Croatia. So what we see here is a data set and set of values of qualitative or quantitative variables, which is actually the data itself. So when we analyze that data, we can give an information, and information is that we have 380,033 e-citizens users. So that's how we got information, and when we get, and on the top of the pyramid is knowledge. So what is the power of open data? The power of open data is to release social and economic value, and as well, one important thing is that it also protects the environment. So why we should open data? We have several stuff to say about. One is savings. For instance, we have an example of an application in the UK about they use the info about the drug prescriptions. So they managed to save over £200 million because the research showed that that in some areas there was some medication prescribed which weren't generics. So instead they managed to save from that £200 million. The other thing is that apart from savings, open data can help you develop new products that can improve the quality of life. One example of this is, for instance, in Iceland, somebody developed an Icelandic land map, and on that map you can find some farms that contain information about the land quality. The other thing is that open data can create new market value, and the example for it is GOOV transport map in Netherlands. It started as an ordinary startup and it became really big because it uses public open data from public transport open data. And of course the important thing everybody's talking about is transparency. The city of Bern invested a lot in opening the data, and apart from savings, they even managed people to understand their decision making. And of course, there is a human component. It's about saving the environment and saving lives. So we have an example of Haiti OpenStreetMap, because the people were tagging the collapsed buildings and partially collapsed buildings, and everything was combined in an OpenStreetMap. So it helped a lot, and to save some lives during the catastrophe. So let me say something about why open data is important and what are the benefits. For public sector, opening data can increase government efficiency. It is also making governments more effective and ultimately will reduce costs. Also, open data can bring more efficient resource use and more efficient public sectors. So, for instance, in UK, they made an analysis of the public spending, and they realized they could save £4 million because several institutions were buying the same reports that could be used in another institution. So they saved £4 million from that. Apart from the public sector, the benefits of open data in private sector is, for instance, to create innovation, to create new products and services which will improve the quality of life. So when you combine multiple sources, from multiple sources, new products could be made and new services could be made that could improve the quality of living. Also, one of the really important things is that new jobs are then created. So there is some data in a paper published by European Commission that from 2016 till 2020, 25,000 new jobs in European Union will be created only on open data. And as well, several studies have estimated the economic value of open data at several tens of billions of euros annually in the EU alone. And on the other hand, open data is important for the NGOs and citizens. So when we are talking about transparency, there is an example in the United Kingdom again. There is an application called Where Does My Money Go? So in that application, everyone can see how the daily taxes we pay are divided between different parts of the government. Another benefit is to enhance understanding in decision making, to strengthen trust in public institutions, and to encourage democratic participation. So when we are talking about challenges when opening the data, there are of course lots of them, and one of it is because part of the public sector is still charging for some data. So actually there should be some adequate strategy created in order that income from selling the data should not be main source of financing institutions' expenses. This means that some key changes in operational models and the organization itself should be made. And those changes would secure the fact that the institution can publish open data in a sustainable way. On the other hand, the institution must as well learn to enhance the usage of the same open data that it publishes, and as well to use the open data from other institutions. So when we are talking about it, mindset of civil servants must be changed as well. And sometimes the institution is actually focusing on the data it collects instead of to find some other solution to collect in a different and maybe more efficient way. And on the other hand, government should as well invest in public servants because they should be well educated to use public sector open data, and not only to learn how to publish it. As well, when we are talking about opening a large amount of data, in some cases there are privacy concerns. That means that sometimes some data could reveal something about someone if you mix it with some other information. And that could be prevented by careful selections when you publish the data. Of course, and you must consider as well the restrictions in your local law on personal data protections. So some of those problems could be solved by anonymizing the data. As well, we have that example in Croatia, when we have published waiting lists for specialist procedures in hospitals, and the data is anonymized in a way that instead of name and surname, there is only some code of the patient. So nobody can tell if you are going for the specialist procedures. But in other hand, it can help you to see how long the waiting lists are. And as well, there is a thing called data hugging, and that is illustrated in the picture, because the institutions really tend often to resist that data should not be published at all. And they say, it's my data and I don't want to publish it. And often institutions are asking, and for instance, when we were talking about this in Croatia, there were some questions, and what if someone sees that the data has errors? But actually, we say it always, when you publish the data, it could even help you to make it, even though it may have errors, it could help to clear those errors. And the data is going to become more accurate. Another thing, the public institutions when they resist to publish the data, they always say, okay, we're giving the data and someone will make money of it. I mean, of course, the private sector is as well paying the taxes and everything. So actually, the private sector has the right to use the open data from the public institution. So we're going to the next slide, just to say something about few examples on open data applications. First is in San Francisco, somebody made an application called Neighborhood Score. So it's a mobile application that you can compare the city quarters if you select several criteria. For instance, you can select crime rate, you can select air pollution, you can select bicycle lanes, you can select the quality of schools in that area. So it can be one thing that could help you if you move from one quarter to another, to help you better decision making. On the other hand, there is a neat application in Estonia called Tarte. It's a travel application that uses public and private open data. It uses public open data about traffic congestions, construction works, weather conditions, and other stuff. And apart from the public open data, it uses private open data from some transport companies. So you can see if there's going to be as well the congestion on the road. If a big private company, transport company, is on the way from one destination to another. So another example can be used. For instance, there is an application in Finland that is it's a startup developed by a mother whose son was prone to allergies. So the lady created a startup when it's actually a web page for recipes, but it uses public open data about nutrient information. So in that case, you can see for every recipes what are the allergens. So you can avoid it, of course. And there are many other options as to plan your meal and to like and follow, like on every other almost social networks. Another example is Good Sam in the United Kingdom. It's an application to call for an ambulance or to alert an emergency because if you see something happened, I mean if you see someone lying on the street, apart from you can now run and help him. You can use the application to call the three nearest person, who are maybe firemen, policemen, or ER employees that can call for help. And to say something about Croatian open data application, we have an example of an application that is called Smart Health. It uses public open data about the locations of the GPs, dentists, and pharmacists, as well as their information about their opening hours, how much patients, for instance, do they have. So if you moved from one quarter to another, and you are considering your new GP, you can see how occupied are they with the patients. On the other hand, there is a budget application. It's called Proračun, and it uses public open data about local government spending, local government budget, and with that application you can compare local municipalities with compare local municipality budgets. So you can compare, for instance, one town and other town with similar population and see which amounts do they spend, for instance, on education, on social welfare, on health, or something like that. As well, I thought it would be neat to include some applications that are developed in Bosnia. For instance, there is an interactive map of human rights, which was developed by Radio Sarajevo, and as well there is a CPI Foundation map, I mean database about the budget users, and they made pretty good visualization as well, and you can export format in public open data format on CSV. So now we're going to get a bit serious to talk about legal issues on open data. So the main document that could be talked about is a G8 Open Data Charter. It is a charter on open data signed by G8 leaders. The main thing for it is to promote transparency, innovation, and accountability. And in that charter, open data is defined as an untapped resource with huge potential to encourage the building of stronger, more interconnected societies that could meet the needs of citizens and allow innovation. So the Open Data Charter consists of a main section with 5 principles and some technical annex, which is described as a living set of guidelines. It is for the best practices around the 5 principles. So those principles are here: open data by default, quality and quantity, usable by all, to release data for improved governance, and to release data for innovation. As well, we can talk a bit about PSI directive. I mean, it's the directive of the European Commission on the reuse of public sector information, because it had changes in 2013, and it obliged publication of datasets in machine-readable and open formats together with the metadata. Therefore, it actually supported the open data movement. And apart from that, the European Commission released guidelines on recommended standard licenses, datasets, and charging for the reuse of documents. I think it's really important document because it gives you many information that could help you with opening the data. So the European Commission recommended that the license should be, that the open data should be licensed with less restrictions, and if the state doesn't have any license policy, it is encouraged to use Creative Commons licenses, and I will talk something about Creative Commons licenses later. So on the other hand, 5 categories of open data with the highest demand all over the EU are defined. Those are, as you see on the presentation, geospatial data, Earth observation and environment, transport data, statistics, and companies. I mean, these 5 categories are practically those with the highest demand, not only in the EU but in the world itself. So apart from that, the important thing is to mention that of course the data must be updated. It should be in original and machine-readable form, and it should be classified according to standard vocabularies. So there are DCAT and Eurovoc. And about the charging, it should be marginal cost policy. I mean, the institutions couldn't charge for data more than it had spent to open it. So we're talking now about we're going to pass the last part of the presentation, is actually how to unlock the value of open data in your institution. So even if the obligation for the public bodies to publish proactively reusable information is not present in your country, it shouldn't be an obstacle to adopt and conduct open data policy. So the most important thing is to prepare yourself, to prepare your datasets, and to publish datasets. So if you want to prepare yourself, it is important to get knowledge about open data, which now is not a hard thing anymore, because you have this presentation, you have many of the documents already released. Many of them are, for instance, even in European Open Data Portal. You can find some examples as well in the Open Data Portal of the Republic of Croatia and some other open data portals. You have to choose people who will know what open data is and how to release it. And as well, those persons should educate further. So when you prepare the data sets, the person who is responsible or in charge for the open data in the institution really needs to identify what to publish. So the thing is, it is okay to publish everything, but the most important thing is to not to publish something which contains personal data. And as well, important thing when you prepare the data sets is to describe with metadata. So I will say just something about metadata. Metadata is actually the data about data, and we have some example of metadata from the register. The voters register in Republic of Croatia, which is published on the Open Data portal. For instance, the metadata contains the name of the dataset, the link where to download datasets, 5 stars of open data. 2, you have as well license must be defined, and the license must be defined in order that those data should be free to reuse and share. And as well, there are some tags, what this is about. There is a description of the data set, some theme, and maybe the time frame where the time frame of the data sets. So other thing, we can compare metadata with something very convenient. For instance, when you take a vinyl record, if you remember it, so the vinyl record itself is a data set because it contains the songs. So that sticker on the vinyl record is actually contains metadata. So you have the album, you have the songs, you have the authors, who is the publisher, what is the label, and even when the record is pressed. On the other hand, a license as well is written, but compared to the previous dataset, this, of course, vinyl record and the data itself is not open data because the license it is prohibited for free use and share. So this is not open data. And as well, when we prepare the dataset, we are going to publish it. It is important that the data released should be from primary source, because to avoid the competence. So maybe 2 bodies shouldn't release one or the same information. Only the ones that are under their jurisdiction or the competence. Of course, it is really important to have the data updated. It is important as well to as well use 5 stars or data rating systems. I will tell something about it now. So the 5 stars of data rating systems is a system created by the inventor of World Wide Web. So when we are talking about data set compliant with the open data, data set should have a rank number 3, 4, or 5. So the first star means that the data is available under open license, and it's maybe some PDF file. Of course, if you publish XLS dataset instead of PDF, you have reached 2 stars of open data because it's a machine readable, and on the other hand, it is available under open license. So if you want to go to the 3rd star, that means you should use a format that will give you a machine readable format, a format that is available under open license, and it should be open format. We will talk something about open formats just a bit later. And to reach 4 stars, you should as well use uniform URIs to denote things, And if you want to get the 5 stars, you should link to other data to provide content. But now I think you should more focus on publish on 3 stars using CSVs, or maybe 4 stars using XMLs or JSONs or RDF. So when we talk about formats, it is important to use as few closed formats as possible. So if you, for instance, write a report, it shouldn't be in a Word document because it's not open format. It shouldn't be in PDF because it's not machine readable, but it can be in HTML or it can be in text format. On the other hand, when we are talking about structured data, the data shouldn't be in XLS format because it's not open format, and it shouldn't be in PDF because it's not machine readable then. You can use formats as CSV because CSV is extremely easy to convert from the XLS just to save as that document. And on the other hand, if you have some information system that can export your data to some other formats like JSON and XML or RDF that will give you 4 stars, even better. So it is actually important just to use machine readable, open formats, and to be available on open license. And when we are talking about license, it is important as well to, when you publish the data set, you should choose license for it. So any license is better than none, and as we talked before, it is okay to use worldwide recognized Creative Commons license. So Creative Commons licenses, there are several sorts of them because they can provide you a simple and standardized way, so you can give you permission to share and use your creative work on conditions or your choice. For instance, when we are talking about licenses, the one on the top, CC BY, called Creative Commons Attribution, it gives you the most freedom. So the only thing that if someone uses your data, they must indicate the source of the data. And there are some other a bit more restricted licenses, like when you use non-commercial attributes, that means that you may not use the material for commercial purposes. If you use, for instance, no derivatives, that means if the user remixes, transforms, or builds upon the material, he may not distribute the modified material. And there is as well share-alike attribute. That means if it is used, you must distribute your contributions under the same license as the original. So actually, this CC BY license attribution is maybe the least restricted, and even European Commission consider it one of the best to license the data on Creative Commons CC BY attribution. And another thing is when you publish open data, the important thing is how to find it. So it is crucial that all open data should be, so some national portal, for instance, should exist that contains links to all open data in that country. So when we are talking about Europe, the portal is being sucked or harvested by European Open Data Portal. So in the European Data Portal, all data sets from all the Europe are there. So all the users who need open data, they can find it here.